In a video last year, I shared with you that I was growing quite impatient with this fund after being invested in the fund for about 2 to 3 years now. It was still in the negative, it was still at a loss. But a lot of you called me out on it, telling me that the performance of the fund wasn't really based on its NAV, its net asset value per unit, but really based on the monthly dividends that it was providing. And true enough, this fund continues to give me 500 pesos in monthly dividends with no fail. So I guess the question remains, is this fund worthwhile? A lot of you are on opposing ends on this. Some of you really love it and are really defending it, while others see it as an underperformer. What do I think about this, and has my mind changed? This is what we'll look to cover. We'll be talking about the famous, or perhaps infamous, ALFM Global Multi-Asset Income Fund. How has the fund been performing? Stick around and let's find out. Let's go. But before anything, if you are new to the channel, hi, I'm Mark. It's nice to meet you. In this channel, I talk a little bit about lifestyle, but I mostly talk about business and investments. If this is the first time that you are coming across this fund, let me first give you a quick summary. So the BPI-ALFM Global Multi-Asset Income Fund, obviously, as the name suggests, is a fund that invests in global instruments. The fund invests in equities and fixed income securities. And from these diverse investments, the fund guarantees 3 to 5% of annual dividends paid out monthly. So if we're looking at the higher end of that estimate, the monthly payout is around 0.4 to 0.5% monthly. And while I'll be talking about my investments in this fund through the BPI mobile app or BPI online, you can actually invest in this fund via GCash, GInvest as well. I started posting about this fund when it was new around 2021. It's been a while back. I still had some hair then. So it's actually one of the few mutual funds that are paying regular monthly dividends. I was just trying this out at the start, but once I saw the regular payments and grew confident with the fund, I started to grow more ambitious with the fund and thought that I could actually get over 500 pesos in monthly dividends by increasing my total investments. So between the months of March to May in April 2022, I started ramping up my investments here. So right now, it's at a total of 106,020 pesos. The current market value of that investment is 108,644 pesos and 69 centavos. This means that my investment has a yield of just over 2,624 pesos. This is representing a gain of about 2.48%. So this is not huge by any means. But let's go through the main feature of the fund, which would be its regular monthly dividends. Now for the dividend payouts, we won't see this in the part of the mobile app that summarizes the performance of the fund. We only get to see the dividend payouts in our bank account. And unfortunately, I can only backtrack as far back as 3 months ago. So let me just share these 3 latest dividends that have been credited to my bank account. On February 17th, just last week, I received a dividend of 546 pesos and 54 centavos. This is labeled 4347 payment investment BMI. For January, paid out on the 16th, the dividends were 548 pesos and 68 centavos. Lastly, for December, the dividend payout was 549 pesos, 0.46 centavos. So safe to say that on estimate, I'm getting about 550 pesos now based on monthly dividends. So from my video about a year and a half ago, the dividend payouts that I was getting then was about 470 to 490 pesos. So while I'm not able to give you the exact amount in these last 22 months, we can look to average the monthly payouts at 500 pesos per month. So that's my goal anyway. So if we were to take the monthly average of 500 pesos monthly dividends in the last 22 months, this would come out to a total of 11,000 pesos in dividends. So plugging the 11,000 to the performance of the fund right now in terms of its NAV with yield of over 2,600 pesos, this comes out to a total yield of 13,624 pesos. Percentage-wise, this is nearly 13%. Plugging in the dividends really makes it a lot more worthwhile. In terms of monthly dividends, this is about 0.47%. Based on an annualized performance, this comes out to 5.66%. So this fund is actually overperforming in terms of its initial target of just 3 to 5%. So in that regard, the fund is performing quite well. Let's now compare this to the performance of the S&P 500, and let's not stray far. Let's use the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund. To make this a fair comparison, I am also looking at the performance of the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund in the last 22 months. So I'm looking at its starting value at May 2022. The NAV pool of the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund then was at 213.95, and its current value as of the third week of February 2025, the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund is listed at 325.38. This is actually a gain of 52.08%. So these are the numbers that we're looking at. If you had invested in the BPI-ALFM Global Multi-Asset Income Fund, factoring in the NAV pool and dividends, you'd be up around 13%, while if you had invested in the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund, your gains would be over 50% already. When we compare this to my video 10 months ago, the performance of the funds then were a bit more comparable. Now the S&P 500 is performing about 3 to 4 times better. Does this now mean that this is not a good fund? Well, I wouldn't put it that way. For context, the S&P 500 is at an all-time high right now. This means that it's as high as it's ever gone. And this is really in terms of the equities, the stock market side. Again, since the ALFM Multi-Asset Income Fund is only partially invested in equities and more so in more conservative fixed income securities, we can't really demand the same performance from it. The S&P 500 or the BPI US Equity Feeder Fund at that is really more of a high risk, high rewards type of game, while the ALFM Multi-Asset Income Fund is really more about capital preservation. And out of the many bond funds or safe investments out there, I actually see that the ALFM Multi-Asset Income Fund is worthwhile in this regard. I mean, you don't get these kinds of dividends and regular monthly payouts when you compare it to other bond funds or other safe conservative investment funds out there. So the ALFM Multi-Asset Income Fund continues to be worthwhile. It really depends on you now as to what type of investment you want to make. If your risk tolerance is high and you really want to have the best performance out there, then the S&P 500 is for you. On the other hand, the ALFM Multi-Asset Income Fund is not really a star performer, but rather this fund gives you the chance to only partially risk your capital, small decent gains, at the same time giving you monthly dividends. And like a lot of you have commented, cash is king. Just make sure that those dividends that are being paid out to you are being invested in the proper place as well. What I'm also seeing is that the longer that I'm invested in this fund, the monthly dividends are growing bit by bit. So again, I started just around 460 pesos in monthly dividends. Now I'm at nearly 550 pesos per month already. So I'm seeing that this is a trend that will continue to grow. I mean, if you look at my total investment here, I haven't really grown it in the last 2 years. So the dividends of the fund is not because I am putting a lot more money in it, but rather just the fund performing and providing higher dividends as you stay longer invested in the fund. So what do you think about the BPI-ALFM Global Multi-Asset Income Fund? I know a lot of you are defenders of this and you really like it, while I know that there are also many naysayers on this. Which camp are you part of? Do you love this? Do you hate this? Let me know in the comment section. If you've liked this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, guys, and happy fruitful investing!